avoid injury.
Okay.
And last two games, Powdersville went out of area to play Berea and beat them 27-14. A Wayne Green coached Berea team.
Yeah, Wayne's moved around a good bit, and over at Berea, they have never been a powerhouse. They had one good running back over there 20 years ago or so, and they won a few ball games, but they have never been a powerhouse, and I think they hoped that Wayne would be able to come in. I think it's his home.
Mm-hmm. And this is actually his second stint at Berea.
Right, so, yes.
And they were pretty solid under him the last time he was there.
Yeah.
They're not there yet. But if you give Wayne Green time, which I have seen, he can turn a program around to at least where they are competitive. He did it. I mean, he won a state title at BHP. He turned around that Seneca program and laid the groundwork that Gene Cathcart and now Brett Turner are building on. And now he's trying to do it again at Berea. And I think he will do it. It's just not this year. And finally, Liberty continued their rough start to the season with a 30-0 loss to Pickens. That was Pickens' first win of the season. Former Westside coach John Boggs leads the Blue Flame. Interesting thing, he changed them from a power run team to a spread team for that game. And that seemed to have worked because they finally were able to put up some points.
Yeah, I believe I read that in the Independent Mail that they had done that. How do you do that quickly, though, make that kind of change? And who was the coach that would have installed that offense? John didn't do it. I don't guess. He may have.
John probably did it because when he was at Walhalla, they used to run what we called the air raiser, where basically they spread you out and they threw 40 and 50 times a game.
Okay. But he did not do that at Westside. If he did, it was not successful.
No, he did not. Near the end of his stint at Walhalla, he went to a power run game.
Yeah.
He brought it at Westside because he thought he had the big physical guys up front and the big powerful running backs. It just didn't work out, and so he tried to take it back to Pickens. It didn't work for their first two games. And so it goes into the spread, which suited their personnel better, and they were able to beat Liberty 30-0. Liberty has scored 3 points in 2 games, so they have. Yeah,
that's a program that historically has just struggled.
Yeah, they have
ever since I can remember.
There is an athletic. There is a. You don't want to say a talent, but there is an athleticism deficiency that they have just naturally. They don't have the athletes coming through that, say, a Pendleton does, and also they have to battle for students with Pickens, Easley, and Daniel transferring in the county.
Sure. Now, I don't know if you were maybe trying to allude to it and just didn't want to say it, but I know what happened at one time. Walhalla was so very, very good. This is many years ago. And then after integration, Seneca, Walhalla did not get many quality black athletes. And I don't know if that's what you were trying to say, if Liberty has any quality black athletes or not, but it makes a huge difference.
No, they do have some. It's not really a race thing. It's just more of a.
Okay.
When you look at them on the field, they don't quite move as fast. They're not as speedy as, say, a Pendleton or a BHP or places like that.
Okay.
They're more in the vein of a Walhalla or a West Oak, where they're, are there more white kids on the team? Yeah, there are. But I've seen other teams that are majority white that have no problems. Jefferson down in Georgia, St. Pius in Georgia, Buford in Georgia, Christchurch over here in Class.
Yeah, Christchurch. And some of the private schools, too. And I'm going to talk about private schools in here in a minute.
It's more the type of guys you have in your school. And right now, Liberty is just kind of in a lull, I think, talent-wise in the school. It'll always pick back up. It goes in waves. Hannah experienced it a few years ago. They had
and Westside for a long time, too.
Both of them had a dip. Now they're both seeming to be on the uptick. It's just one of those cyclical things in high school where sometimes your school has an abundance of talent coming through it, and sometimes it just doesn't have it.
Yeah. Another thing you have to do in high school is you have to lay some groundwork down with those middle school kids and those sort of things. And so some of the people have given up because of the 8-quarter thing, some people have given up maybe ninth grade ball or some kind of, not around here, and I couldn't go into the details. I don't know all the details, but they have given up some of that this year, and I wonder what's going to happen as this begins to catch up with them and lack of experience and game experience. I don't know. And that's a whole other program that we would have to get into that one.
But I guess before we wrap up and get your thing, we do have some big news for Westside in regard to the polls this week.
Oh, listen, the polls are out. Can you release them yet? I can't find them anywhere online.
Yeah, I have them.
Okay.
For 4A, of course, Spartanburg remains number 1. Hillcrest got bumped up to number 2 because they are just absolutely thrashing teams right now. Burns is number 3, and Fort Dorchester down in the lower part of the state is number 4. Westside came in at number 8 this week. So
all right, okay.
They were finally able to get that win, get the attention of the entire SC press over in the statewide.
Okay.
And now they're in the top 10 poll. Hannah is not. They have not received votes yet. If they're able to beat Seneca next week, I think they will probably receive votes, and they may even sneak in at that 10 spot. But
okay.
That's another week for another discussion. In 3A, South Point remains number 1. Hartsville, over in the eastern part of the state, in PD's number 2. And Greer, who has really gotten a lot of preseason acclaim this year, is at number 3, and Myrtle Beach, the 3A powerhouse in the Grand Strand, is at number 4. Seneca comes in this week at number 5 after their win, and BHP got dropped to number 7. So the loss against Westside didn't hurt them too much.
Not too much.
And I agree with them. It should not have dropped them out of the top 10. It needed to drop them a little bit, but and of course in the bottom half some movement happened. Wren got dropped out. Palmetto got a few votes. But I think just the level of competition they've gone against is maybe hurting them in the media's eyes.
Yeah, right, so far. Mm-hmm.
But if they're able to beat Crescent and then come in at 4-0, they may be put in at 10 or 9 just because they're still undefeated on the year.
Yeah.
In 2A, there was no changes because none of the top 10 teams lost. So Pendleton remains at number 7. Number 1 team is still Dillon. Number 2 is Abbeville. And number 3 is Newberry. So that's a very tough top 3 in 2A.
Yeah.
And just to round it out, single A, even though we don't have any teams in that classification, McBee remains number 1. Bamberg Earhart, that powerhouse down there under Coach Kevin Crosby, is at number 2. And Christchurch comes in at number 3 still. So,
okay, that's good.
That opening week loss to Abbeville really did drop them, but
sometimes I think voters are looking for a reason to drop them too. I really do.
I personally dropped them after that. I dropped them much further. I dropped them to number 5.
You were looking for a reason to, weren't you?
I
used to vote in all these, and listen, back in the 60s, the polls weren't as big a deal as they are now. Hard to get there's about 4 of us got together, and it didn't take but about 4, and we could make somebody number 1, or we could make a player all state very easily. About 4 or 5 of us, and so. Anyway, I was joking a little bit there.
But it is subjective. We're not perfect. And honestly, I put some teams in the lower part of the state. I've never seen them play. And same thing for people down in the lower part of the state. They put teams in the upper state. They've never seen them play. But
nobody can see them all, no matter what league you're in.
But I think once you get all of them together, you get a pretty good idea of who's strong and who's probably a little lacking this year.
Yeah.
But so congrats to Westside of finally getting in the top 10. My Twitter exploded last week when I didn't get in.
Yeah.
So this week I got a lot of happy people over in Westside.
Yeah. Speaking of rankings, that kind of thing, there are 2 or 3 different polls for nationwide, and this is one of the most subjective thing you can do, I guess. But it's easier to just get the USA Today one, and it's often very different from the AP poll. But this week, Bishop Gorman out of Las Vegas is 2-0. They're number 1. Number 2 is St. Thomas Aquinas out of Fort Lauderdale. Centennial Corona out of California is number 3. DeMatha at Hyattsville, Maryland, DeMatha Catholic, and they're normally number 1 or 2 in basketball too.
Yes,
in DeMatha. St. John Bosco of Bellflower, California. And as I go through here, a lot of these are private schools.
Yes, they are.
They're private schools, and they recruit.
Yes,
they do. And, it may cost... You go to a parent and say, look, I know it costs $20,000 a year to go to our school, but we're willing to give your son like a scholarship, and they recruit. Then got Allen, Texas, and that'll be a public school.
Yes.
They're at number 6. Number 7 is Colquitt County in Moultrie, Georgia. They're 3-0, and that would be a public school. Mm-hmm. Cedar Hill in Texas, I suppose, is public school at number 8. Number 9 is Colerain out of Cincinnati. Now, that's a new school to me. And I can't pronounce their name. And they're 2-0, and they're number 8. Number 9, they're number 9. Archer out of Lawrenceville, Georgia, is number 10. Sounds like out of Lawrenceville.
That's a public school.
Yeah, it should be a public school.
It is.
And Clay Chalkville, Pinson, Alabama. That's another public school. I think that's public.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Never been there.
I'm just trying to go by the names, you know.
Yeah.
There's at Cocoa, Florida High School.
Yeah, that's public.
And, of course, Ocean Lakes out of Virginia Beach. And I think...
That is public.
I think it's public, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay, Trinity Ulysses out of Texas. Now, that sounds like a private school to me.
I believe it is.
You know, and they are number 14. Katy, Texas is always up high. And is that the one that's so close to Dallas? And
it is.
And
they're a lot like Allen. They're very big.
Yeah.
And they are just
some of the
talent.
Some of the NFL players... Kids go there too, I think.
Yes, they do.
All right, you got American Heritage out of Plantation, Florida. That sounds. I don't know. Is that public?
I think that's actually a public school.
Okay,
it's just one of the. I think it's one of the newer ones that came up down there.
And they're 16 now. Here's one I know. It's a professional school. IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida.
Oh yeah.
They're number 17.
That is an academy where kids go to play football.
That's what it's a school for football, and they incidentally will let you go to class and pick up enough college credits to go. And there, who was the last? Some of the coaches there, famous people are coaching down there.
Yeah,
you know,
I know there's a kid from Buford, Georgia, that plays there now named Isaac Nada, who is the number 3 tight end in the country. They have Rayshawn Smith, a former Clemson commitment. He's down there.
Yeah, that's right.
There are kids from Virginia, Georgia, all over the place that end up down there. So I basically call it a high school prep school because you go there to play football.
All right, then you have St. Edward of Lakewood, Ohio, and the Saint in front of it.
That's
that may or may that sound private. Now here I know, and you have Flanagan, Pembroke Pines, Florida. That probably sounds a little bit public there. Then at 20, you have the most famous of all the football schools, De La Salle and Concord, California. They lost their first game, by the way.
Oh, man.
They had once had a 154-game win streak. And their coach, they made a movie about him.
Oh, yeah.
All right, the coach, during this time, he taught 5 classes a day. I think it was either history or math that he taught. And he won 154 games straight. But that is a private Catholic school.
Yes, it is.
And so I'm sure there's a certain amount of, recruiting is the word I'm looking for, I think.
Yes, there is. They open in schools like Christ Church and St. Joseph's around here. They do it too.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why I dropped them so far in my Class A poll, because they get to openly recruit, and Abbeville, at least on its surface, have to do the best with what they can find. Now, I know there's an argument that says, well, public schools recruit too.
There is an argument for that, and it's true to a certain extent. Yeah.
How else do you explain some kids moving across the state to go to a school and play quarterback? But for the most part, and also a lot of that has to do with inter-district transfer and all that. And if you can afford your own ride and transportation to a place, then it's not technically recruiting. You're choosing to pay to go there, even though there's stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but that goes on everywhere. But for the most part, public schools have to do the best with what they have.
Sure, they do.
And private schools simply don't.
There's a school number 21 out of Powder Spring, Georgia, called it's McEachern. McEachern, is that what it is? McEachern.
That is a public school.
That's a public school.
Powerhouse.
Yes, and then you've got Trinity High School in Louisville. There again, that name gives you an that could be.
I think it
could be private. Webb City, Missouri, number 23. Spartanburg, South Carolina. is number 24. And don't tell me that around that, especially that area up there